Right now on the National Weather Desk, lake effect snow is about to bury parts of New York State. How much snow could fall before it's all over? A new analysis from NOAA shows the amount of snow falling around the globe is falling, and it's all because of climate change. We're getting a new view of the devastation Hurricane Otis caused in Acapulco back in October. Meet the woman who is hiking the U.S. from coast to coast. Why Michigan is asking people to help them track black bears in the state. And the long, hot, dry summer in Texas takes a toll on Christmas trees.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Northern and western New York are some of the snowiest places in the country. One reason is lake effect snow. It's caused by cold air moving over the relatively warm waters of the Great Lakes. And that's the pattern New York will see today. Lake effect snow warnings are posted for 3 million people who've lived around both Lake Erie and also Lake Ontario. More than 2 feet of snow could fall in some areas before it ends sometime tomorrow. As Nicole LaFiandra shows us, roads are already snow covered and it's hard to see.
So here's what we're looking at out of the front of Weather Authority 1. Again, we're in Pulaski and it's kind of like driving through a cartoon-esque looking snowfall. As for visibility, we drove on I-81 North and Route 11. It's low, so even when you really hunch toward the windshield, you can barely see. As for sticking, the 3 words every snow hater despises, it is sticking. And as for the road conditions, like I said, not looking good right now. Plows are out, but expect to take a slide. As for wind, it was coming down sideways on the highways. So with all this talk of snow, we were able to see what neighbors thought of the season's first significant snowfall.
Playing in it. Myself and family have 4-wheelers, so it's fun to play in. Kids find a lot more enjoyment in the snow than usually more grown people that are getting sick of having to deal with it. The people that aren't ready, don't have their tires changed, just are still in a rush and haven't got ready to slow down for the winter weather yet.
Speaking of snow, a new analysis and maps from a NOAA climate scientist show snowfall is declining globally. Scientists blame rising temperatures from human-caused climate change. They say a warmer world means precipitation is more likely to fall as rain than snow. It's most notable in the area north of the tropics and south of the Arctic, where most of the world's population lives. A major concern from this trend is the impact on water supplies from snowpack melting. Now to Wisconsin, where the Green Bay area got nearly 3 inches of snow on Sunday. Meteorologist Christian Palacio talked with snowplow drivers to find out some of the challenges they are facing.
On Sunday morning, Green Bay and surrounding areas accumulated about 1 to 3 inches of snow. It was enough to bring out the familiar sight and sounds of snowplows. But what are some of the challenges of working as a snowplow driver for the city?
I think the biggest thing is the city of Green Bay is, 43 square miles, so there's a lot of different routes. There's a lot of different maps to get to learn. Just learning the lay of the land and figuring out where you're going at what time.
Josh Brassfield is the street superintendent for the Green Bay Department of Public Works. He says there are other challenging situations such as pre-treating roads, brining, salt routes, primary routes, and even now, a crucial transitional period for the trucks and equipment.
I think the most challenging part is just knowing how to be prepared for snow, like how much equipment do we need to have together compared to still trying to fulfill the leaf pickup that we're trying to finish.
Brassfield says another aspect of being prepared is making sure there's enough staff on hand. If you've thought about becoming a snowplow driver, there are other things to consider. Snowplow drivers tend to work long hours. There are early mornings and overnight shifts. You also need to have plenty of patience. As for Brassfield, he says this is the most important component.
And the last part is I think you just have to have the willingness to help your community. I mean, it's a big portion of what we do here at DPW is just keeping the roads open for our emergency services and then the rest of the public.
When you think of places with poor air quality, Utah probably doesn't come to mind, but this week the state will have air quality issues, and it's all because of a winter storm that blew through the state Thanksgiving weekend. Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains.
So with an inversion, you get a layer of warm air on top of this layer of cold air, which is stuck down in the valleys, unfortunately. So when that cold air gets trapped by that layer of warm air above it, nothing can escape. And so anything that we put out into the atmosphere in that cold layer gets stuck as well. And that's why you can see that layer of haze out there. As soon as the sun comes up today, you'll be able to see it. So let's talk air quality for a second. Air quality is in the moderate zone for today. It's expected to stay in the moderate category for tomorrow as well, but we're just slowly ticking it up a little bit each day. It looks like it'll peak on Thursday. It may just barely get into the orange category, meaning that the air will be unhealthy for sensitive groups. And then hopefully we'll bring it down a little bit on Friday as a storm system moves into the region.
We are getting a new view of the devastation Hurricane Otis left behind in Acapulco, Mexico. This newly released drone video captures just how powerful and destructive the Category 5 hurricane was. Many buildings are virtual skeletons. At least 50 people died when Otis hit the Pacific coast on October 25th, but some reports say the real number could actually be in the hundreds. The storm also caused billions of dollars in damage. Recovery has been slow, with some business leaders fearing that tourists will not come back until 2025. One woman is on her way to becoming the first ever solo female hiker to complete the American Discovery Trail, which runs from coast to coast. Audrey Mayer read up with Brianna DeSanctis as she's heading towards the finish line on her incredible journey.
All right, watching for ticks.
6,200 miles, almost 2 years, with 2 more states to go. Brianna DeSanctis started her cross-country journey in Cape Henlopen, Delaware, and expects to become the first solo woman to finish the American Discovery Trail in San Francisco in a few weeks. But she has to get through rural Nevada first.
So I have to go back to Eureka, Nevada tomorrow morning and start working my way back here.
Brianna says this next trek will be the most physically demanding part of her journey. The next 300 miles are so remote, Brianna's family buried food and water for her every 80 miles along the trail.
And they drove out and buried a 5-gallon bucket full of food and water for me and gave me the coordinates and told me how to find it. And I just have to get there, and I hope it's still there.
To keep warm, she has her tent, winter sleeping bag, and just tries to keep moving constantly during the day. But believe it or not, she says that's not the most difficult part of her solo adventure.
The hardest part are the mental challenges and what you face, and just keeping your drive to keep going and keep pushing when the weather gets bad, when you get bored, when there are stretches, when you can see the same silo in this field for 3 days and you're walking toward it and your scenery just doesn't change. And you just need to keep pushing on and keep going and know that you can make it through. And you're doing this not just for yourself, but I want to inspire other people and especially empower young women.
She says of all the places she's seen across the country, the western part of the U.S. is her favorite because it's full of wilderness, beauty, and mystery. I asked her how she feels knowing she's so close to making history.
It's very scary to know that, I'm going to get to a place where I'm walking to the ocean, literally walking to the ocean. I started by walking into the ocean and turning around and walking out. And when I hit the Pacific, I really don't have an option to keep walking.
While you were sleeping, a new batch of Starlink satellites blasted into space. The 23 satellites were on board a Falcon 9 rocket as it launched from Cape Canaveral late Monday night. Just over 8 minutes later, the booster rocket landed on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. There are now more than 5,500 Starlink satellites orbiting the Earth. And scientists have detected the second most powerful cosmic ray ever observed. Cosmic rays are charged particles that travel through space and rain down on Earth constantly. But scientists say extremely high energy ones are exceptional. According to officials, the cosmic ray carried the energy of about 244 quintillion electron volts. Scientists believe this new particle may have originated from beyond the Milky Way. The research was published last week in the journal Science. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll find out why officials in Michigan are asking for the public's help tracking local bear populations.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Quite a downpour early Monday morning in West Palm Beach. A front stalled out, resulting in their quick but very heavy rainfall. No rain, but a very pronounced sundog appeared near Albany, New York. They're caused by the refraction of light through ice crystals. And it was a picture-perfect sunrise Monday over the Natchez River not far from Beaumont, Texas.
Listen to Off the Radar. New episodes every Tuesday. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. You are watching the National Weather Desk.
The 2023 Atlantic hurricane season officially comes to an end on Thursday. Meteorologist Emily Gracie looks back at the season on this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. Here's a sneak peek of what she posted on social media.
June 1st, 2023, day one of the Atlantic hurricane season, and Mother Nature knew it.
The first day of the Atlantic hurricane season was yesterday, and like clockwork, yesterday, Tropical Depression 2 developed in the Gulf of Mexico.
We may not look back at this past season as a highly active one, but there were certainly moments that stood out.
Hillary is now a powerful Category 4 storm with winds of 145 miles an hour.
Storms that made history.
This is the most intense hurricane to hit the Big Bend area of Florida since the late 1800s, so it goes way back.
And moments that caught us off guard.
Parts of Acapulco are in ruins after Hurricane Otis slammed into the Mexican city.
Today, I'm going off the radar to look back at the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season with Dr. Mike Brennan, the director of the National Hurricane Center.
You know, as we move toward the end of 2023, I think there's a lot to go back and look at and try to do better next year.
We'll talk about the noteworthy storms of the year, the new forecasting and communication tools being used, and the successes and struggles of the past 6 months.
You can listen to that episode of Off the Radar right now anywhere you get your podcasts. If you don't listen to podcasts, you can hear Emily's interview with Dr. Brennan coming up on Thursday right here on the National Weather Desk. In Michigan, black bears go into hibernation by December every year. As meteorologist Heather Bricka reports, this year, the State Department of Natural Resources is asking people to help them study and track the bears.
Kind of the best tool for us to be able to find bears that are denned up that aren't already collared is members of the public. And this time of year, bears are going into dens. We've got a lot of hunters going into the field right now, as well as trappers and other people that are using, either public land or private land, going out into the woods. And sometimes they stumble upon bear dens. So we're really, hoping to tap into the public's help. It's kind of, like I said, the most effective technique for us to use.
And the goal is to find dens like this to help the DNR to know more information about the bear population.
We're kind of always looking for female bears that we might be able to incorporate into our surrogate sow program. And so with that, we try to keep around 4 to 6 adult sows collared at any one time in case we have an orphan cub that comes in.
The bear management team is taking data from both the northern lower and the upper peninsula for 2 different reasons.
Generally, we're trying to find bears that are away from people for like our surrogate sow program and things like that. But then in the Baldwin unit, for that new research project, we might want bears that are spending a lot of time in close proximity to humans.
And if you find a bear's den,
it's illegal in Michigan to kind of disturb a bear that's denned up or a bear den in general. So, if somebody happens to stumble upon one, we want them to keep a safe distance, not, wake that bear up or disturb it in any way.
The DNR is asking you to get the GPS coordinates of the bear den location and to be as specific as you can.
Just like black bears, the fish known as the Arctic grayling used to be plentiful in Michigan, but they were wiped out a century ago. Now, as meteorologist Trevor Robideau shows us, the species is being reintroduced to some lakes, much to the delight of fishermen.
Here at the Grayling Fish Hatchery is a species of fish that haven't been active in Michigan public waters for over a century. But this site is a crucial part of the DNR's attempt to bring back the Arctic grayling fish to the state of Michigan. But why bring them back after so long?
They dominated the lower peninsula, back in the mid-1800s, they were the only salmonid that were in a lot of the, the famous so-called trout streams we have now. They had abundant populations of Arctic grayling.
According to Tonello, many of the fish we know as native fish did not exist over 100 years ago. So what happened to the grayling?
The Arctic grayling went extinct due to a combination of habitat destruction from logging, overfishing by settlers and local folks in the area, and then also due to competition from introduced species, which included brook trout, brown trout, and rainbow trout.
However, there is a catch. The species of grayling here are from Alaska, near Fairbanks, so there is a concern over how the fish will adapt to rapidly changing waters in an entirely different climate.
They need cold stream temperatures, just like brook trout, just like brown trout and rainbow trout. And so if climate change continues and our streams, do wind up getting a lot warmer, that will not be a good thing for Arctic grayling reintroduction.
This is where the Grayling Fish Hatchery comes in. This is actually a testing site to see how these fish from across the country will react in Michigan waters. After some failed attempts in the past, the DNR has high hopes this attempt will succeed.
We hope to get to the point where we have enough Arctic grayling to stock into streams in 2025.
'Tis the season for Christmas trees, but in Central Texas, the hot, dry summer took a tremendous toll. Meteorologist Chicago Windler is in Austin with more.
Picking the perfect Christmas tree is a tradition for many Central Texas families, but after the drought we've been through, there has been an impact to this year's crop.
Welcome to Evergreen Farms, the best tree farm ever!
10-year-old Libby Walter-Scheid is a fourth grader with a love of her family's Elgin, Texas farm.
It's special because my grandparents own it, and I feel like I get to have a lot more time with them.
Her grandpa Mike, a retired forestry professor, drives the tractor out to the field, and her grandma Beth oversees the tree sales.
It's been a family tradition. We have 3 generations out here working on the farm.
Libby's mom, Katie, married into the family and quickly learned to respect Mother Nature.
Texas climate allows us to have Virginia pine trees, which is what you see here. They have a little bit longer needle. They look a little bushy, and the really cool thing about those trees is they have strong limbs, and they're great for if you have really heavy ornaments.
Virginia pines thrive when there's enough rain, but even with irrigation, our hot, dry summer took a toll.
The drought was devastating this year. We lost hundreds of trees in the field that we've had to cut down, and it's heartbreaking to just sit here and see that happen.
Hey, Santa! Families coming out to Evergreen Farms can still find trees, but instead of the typical 800 to 900 available for cut your own, this year it's closer to 300.
There we go.
The Brookshire family comes here year after year.
We have always gotten a live tree. There's something about the smell of it and just the imperfection of it that I think adds to the specialness.
Timber!
To offset fewer trees in the field, Evergreen Farms has ordered extra pre-cut trees to meet demand.
These ones are from Washington State, where they can grow firs better than we can.
But for those who prefer local trees, it can take 4 to 5 years for them to grow big enough.
It's about 1.5 feet a year if the weather is nice and we get enough rain.
Though Libby sees the damage from this year's drought, she hopes the trees that survived stay evergreen, just like her family's farm.
And I want my kids to have the experience like I did.
East of Austin in Elgin, Texas, I'm Chicago Windler for the National Weather Desk.
And before a short break, we take flight over a Christmas tree farm in North Carolina.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It's that time of the year when we start to see frost forming, but did you know that frost can form even when temperatures are above freezing? Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains how.
This is the time of year when frost can begin to form in the mornings on grass, on cars, on pumpkins, and other objects that are outside. Usually frost forms when temperatures are below 32 degrees, but have you ever seen it form when temperatures are slightly above the freezing mark of 32 degrees? It can happen, and here's why. Let's say the air temperature is 36 degrees. That temperature is measured about 5 feet above the ground. But cold air sinks, which means the ground temp may be 32 degrees or maybe even lower, which means objects near the ground can freeze. When water molecules in the air touch those frozen surfaces, they freeze and form ice crystals, or what we call frost. You're most likely to see frost form when you have clear skies, light winds, a little moisture both in the air and on the ground, and temperatures in the 30s. So the next time frost forms and the temperature's not quite down to 32 degrees, you'll know why.
We love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you right back here